Good evening, and thank you for attending. My name is Natalie Sayre, and I'll be your moderator for this evening's debate. Before we begin, please silence all phones and electronic devices. Additionally, please refrain from any interruption to the debate, as it is being recorded for on-demand viewing and post-captioning services. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is the sponsor for this evening's event. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The system provides clean funding for qualified participating candidates who agree to abide by the Clean Elections Act and rules. These include contribution and spending limits, foregoing special interest money, and participating in commission debates. We encourage audience questions, so please utilize the note card given to you when you entered the room and hold it up. Our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. If you need additional cards, please raise your hand. If you have a question for a specific candidate, please include the candidate's name on the note card. It will be considered during the second half of the debate. We screen questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. The debate is scheduled for 90 minutes, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. Tonight's debate includes 1-minute opening statements. The first half of the debate begins with 2 minutes to each candidate to answer the same question. After all candidates have responded to the question, the first responding candidate will be given an additional 30 seconds. We will rotate which candidate responds first. The second half will allow for a different question per candidate with 1 minute to answer and 1 minute closing statements. We ask that you remain polite to all of the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with what is being said. Tonight's participants are Mr. Bill Brotherton, Democratic candidate for the State Representative of District 30. Mr. Alejandro Larios, a Democratic candidate, clean elections participant for State Representative in District Number 30. Mr. Robert Meza, Democratic candidate for State Representative of District 30, and Ms. Raquel Taran, Democratic candidate for the State Representative of District Number 30. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name and the opening comments, and will progress from that starting point. The order for the second half will be determined by reverse alphabetical order by last name, and we'll start with Ms. Taran. So, Mr. Brotherton, your opening comments, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for everyone who's coming, the candidates and audience. And I'm Bill Brotherton. I'm running for State Representative LD 30. I am a product of LD 30. I've been living here 44 years. Have 2 children who were born and raised in LD 30. And I previously represented the district in both the House and Senate. I also was appointed by Janet Napolitano as a state superior court judge, and I served on the bench for 10.5 years. So I'm very familiar with the need for progressive, experienced leadership in representing our community. And as I say, I came from a family of 7 children, went to public school here, Cortez High, Glendale Community College, Grand Canyon College. In fact, my wife and I both graduated from there. She is an immigrant and the first member of her family to get a college degree. So what I hope to do as your representative is ensure that we have public education that's quality for everybody in our district.
Thank you. Mr. Larios, your opening comments.
Thank you so much. Is this on? You hear me okay? There it is. Hola, hola, buenas tardes. ¿Hay alguien que prefiere que le traduzcan en español? ¿Alguien? ¿Todo bien? Everyone here is bilingual at least. My name is Alejandro. I grew up in Legislative District 30. I grew up here, and the reason I'm running is because, at the age of 4, my parents purchased their first home right here in Legislative District 30. And I look around what I've experienced, and it's been a lot. And I look back today in 2018, and we're dealing with the same exact issues: lack of resources, lack of education, So what are we doing what are our legislators doing to increase voter turnout, to empower the community? Because we don't need saviors. We need community engagement. We need empowerment. We need folks to really inspire the community, and that's why I'm here. Focus on education, strong wages, safe streets, and a better opportunity for young people just like I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mesa.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Robert Mesa. I'm a third-generation Phoenician, born and raised in the district, have lived in the district for 33 years, attended the Montebello and the Alhambra School District for grade school, Borgate Catholic High, and with scholarship to the University of Notre Dame. I'm running because I have an experience of working in the banking industry and the nonprofit arena. Having worked both in those two, I've able to build alliances with those organizations and those systems and infrastructure and bring that collective knowledge and wisdom and intuition down to the legislative body. I know how to interface with both nonprofit, constituents, corporate arena, and the political arena. So I'm here for this wonderful debate and this wonderful curriculum that we have before us, and I look forward to higher increased wages for teachers, better healthcare system for us in Arizona, which we all care about, these two systems. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Taran.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raquel Teran. I'm running for the Arizona House of Representatives. I am here this moment because my parents instilled in me the willingness to be servant in our communities. I really got engaged in our civic engagement back in 2006 when I started to see the anti-immigrant sentiment and legislation here in the state of Arizona. At the end of the day, the same people that attack immigrant communities are gutting our education system, are attacking working families, and are chipping away healthcare and women's reproductive rights. I've been in the forefront against this, fighting against these attacks, from recalling SB 1070 author Russell Pierce, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and most recently fighting for our healthcare. I want to go into the state legislature and take everything that I've learned by canvassing and talking to voters of Legislative District 30 into that state legislature so that we're present every single day.
Thank you. So at this point in time, we'll go to the part of the debate where everyone gets 2 minutes to answer the same question. And in the case of Mr. Larios, we're going to start with you. You will get an additional 30 seconds to add additional thoughts once you've heard everyone respond. So your question is, what are your priorities and what would be the first bill you would want passed in the legislature?
Excellent. So it's definitely education, and it's not just because it's a hot topic, but because I lived through it as well. You know, in my studies, we found that for every dollar we spent in education, we saved $13 as a state collectively. That's because the standard of living is higher for everyone. Crime is down, jail use is down, emergency room visits are down, bankruptcies are down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just about preparing our young people for the future, but it's also what makes a difference in someone's lives, especially in an underprivileged community, such as myself. You know, in 1991, crime was high. It was normal to be in a gang, myself included. You know, that was the norm. And what made the difference were the resources. So as we're seeing that being cut, we're seeing those communities continue to crumble. So education would be the first one. We need to find out how we're going to sustain the budgeting. 20% needs to be done in a way that's responsible. Make sure that the richest folks in the state are paying their fair share. Making sure that we have the resources to provide resources, you know, after-school programs that keep folks out of trouble. So that would be definitely the first, you know, bill I'd like to see at the governor's desk at the legislature.
Okay. Any additional priorities that you have?
Of course. So I'm a big believer in you know, economic development, but what does that mean? Because that seems to mean different things to different parties. When I think of economic development, I think of strong wages. I think of the middle class. I think of small businesses. LD 30 is full of small businesses. How are they being prepared to thrive? You know, when we talk about legislation that Republicans pass over at the Capitol, it continues to benefit the biggest corporations, national, multi-million-dollar corporations, and not the small businesses that we thrive on. Strong wages, increasing our minimum wage to $15 an hour. You know, wages have not adjusted to inflation. They haven't adjusted to the cost of living. They haven't adjusted to the cost of oil. So in essence, the cost of everything except our wages has gone up. That means our wages have actually been cut. So there is no social justice without economic justice, and that's how we empower our communities right here in LD30, making sure that that's never something that they have to stress out about.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Meza, again, the question is, what are your priorities, and what would be the first bill you would want to introduce?
My priorities are healthcare and education. Here's what is happening. A tsunami is coming. Here's what might happen on the federal level, that pre-existing conditions can be wiped out. One. Number two, that children up to the age of 26 currently can receive benefits in healthcare from their parents. That could be wiped out. That's the second thing. What I would do is write a bill to make sure it's mandated that pre-existing conditions are covered in the state of Arizona. We have an elderly population, a senior population, that already have pre-existing conditions. I have a pre-existing conditions. My neighbors have a pre-existing conditions. If we don't tackle this affordable healthcare system, we as a community, we as a state will drown. We cannot do that. We can be proactive. If you've noticed, Doug Ducey has always been reactive. Here, we can take the leadership role and be proactive. So that would be the bill that I would run first. That would be the first bill that I would run. And we can win it. And the reason why, I think we're going to take over either one of the House or the Senate. If we take either over the House or the Senate and we can win the governorship, I think we steamroll them over and get this covered. I think it's highly important to us. Because if we don't invest in the healthcare system, we will bankrupt the state, we will bankrupt each other. That's most important. Secondly is education. Currently, the way the education system is set up, it's piecemeal together. It's very transactional. There's no long-term sustainability to make it occur. So what I've taken under my jurisdiction, I've taken 25 students ranging from 14 to 30 and have mentored them and given them scholarships and found scholarships through the past 15 years. It's been highly effective. Secondly, I told the governor 3 years ago, you better tackle the education issue, or organically the teachers are going to rise up against you. So organically, this is what we have before us. The teachers have risen and they're steamrolling over the current system, and more power to the teachers and the children and parents of the system.
Thank you. Ms. Duran.
Yes, what I've been hearing at the doors as we're canvassing Legislative District 30 at 110-degree weather, is like the priorities of our district. We're hearing that education is one of the top issues, healthcare and immigration, as well as protecting working families, ensuring that we have quality jobs. There are, of course, many bills that we would like to see move forward around these issues that I just mentioned, but we need to tackle education. We need to make sure that we have the resources necessary in our classrooms so that our children in Legislative District 30 can thrive. From K through 12, we need to ensure that our kids are ready for college. We need to ensure that in order for our district to start thriving, we have better jobs, and we need to bring it back to education. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old, 2.5, and our biggest dilemma is where are we going to send our children, our child to school? And we want to make sure that we are sending them to the best schools. So I can guarantee you that when I go into that state legislature, not only for my child, but for all the children in Legislative District 30, I will fight so that we have the resources necessary in our classrooms.
Thank you. Mr. Rutherton.
Well, thank you very much. As I said before, I grew up in the district, one of 7, so my priorities, one is full funding of public education. My mother was a school teacher. My father worked for the government, and so, as I said earlier, really for us to be able to move up and to have a better life, it was public education. There were 7 of us, and it wasn't going to be done by tax credits or vouchers, which are being pushed by the Republicans. So for me, it's very important that every child has access to good public education. Public schools have to take every student that comes in the door. And that's not true of private schools, and in fact charters. The ACLU just did a report about how charters are cherry picking and finding ways not to take students that might have learning disabilities or other things. So public education, big priority. As is mentioned by Senator Meza, the issues of health care. Right now, Texas and some other states have filed a lawsuit to try to get rid of the pre-existing exemption and also the age 26. I know I'm using that right now for my daughter who's in college. She's on my health insurance. As you get older, you have pre-existing conditions, and so it's very important that stay in place, and we can do that on a state level. Another issue is homelessness. We spend about $500,000 here in this state on homelessness. Massachusetts, approximately the same size, spends over $100 million. And what is happening is that some of the issues and problems that come along with homelessness are coming into our neighborhoods, especially along the areas of the light rail that go along our district. And we need to help those people. We need to provide services, not only to help the homeless and in their plight, but also to give some relief to our neighborhoods, neighborhood parks, so that we can have safe neighborhoods, secure neighborhoods for children.
You can finish your sentence.
Oh, and children and families and other folks. So thank you.
Thank you.
But I saw the stop, and
Thank you
I'm a former judge. I kind of follow the rules.
Thank you for respecting that. And Mr. Larios, you have 30 seconds to add any additional thoughts.
So I think it's safe to say, as Democrats here on the panel, we would agree a lot on what we would love to see at the legislature. The question, I think, is how we're going to turn that into fruition, assuming that we're still dealing with the same hurdles we've dealt with before. And I believe that one thing we haven't done in the past here in Legislative District is to really, again, empower the community. Our votes might be similar, but what are we doing to increase voter turnout? What we can do here in LD30 is make sure that LD30, this district right here, is the reason why we have a Democrat in the U.S. Senate, a Democrat in the governor's office. So we need to make sure that while we're pushing these progressive issues, we're also including the community so that they make a big difference on a state and national level.
Thank you. So that goes into the next question. You're going to start, Mr. Meza.
Yep.
The question is, if Democrats are still unable to gain a majority in the House, how will you achieve your goals and your legislation?
Well, I do it strategically. Number one, what I do, I incorporate 3 different groups of people and to move an agenda forward. Number one, I reach across the aisle to get to flip 2 or 3 votes, Republican votes, for the cause that I'm moving forward. And a perfect example of that was the GCU bill. The GCU bill would have taken 18% of their property tax down to 6%. They would have saved $36 million per year. They would have taken that $36 million and put it on the burden of Legislative District 30 and the surrounding neighborhoods where the average income is about $40,000. So what I did strategically, number one, I reached across the aisles. I got 2 Republican votes to switch their votes to be against the bill. Secondly, I called 5 CEOs who I have confidence in, who want to show that they want to move Arizona forward. And I said, you need to make the calls to the governor and to the congressional people and saying, let's stop this out, let's stop it, let's stop this private carve-out for a private university. It worked. We killed the bill. At the time, Debbie McCune Davis and I killed that bill, and it saved a lot of people money. It could have been a very huge tax burden on our property owners within our neighborhoods.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Taran, same
Yeah.
question.
Yes. Well, we are seeing that our state legislature is actually changing, and if it doesn't happen this year, it's going to happen in the next few years because there has been a lot of work being done in districts that are highly competitive. And that gives me a great deal of hope that we're going to be able to move a lot of the legislation that is more progressive and more beneficial to residents in Legislative District 30. But what I bring to the table is that for the last 12 years, during this harsh environment of attacks coming out of the state legislature, I brought people together. And we brought people together to fight against the reign of terror of Sheriff Arpaio, to recall a sitting senator, a sitting president of the Senate in 2011, Russell Pierce, and our challenge of making sure that we kept the Affordable Care Act, once President Trump was elected, was only because because I was able to work with many people in our community, stakeholders, and move an agenda forward. I plan to do the same thing in the state legislature. Build relationships, get to know where each person is coming from, and then move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton.
Well, thank you. It's a situation that plagued me the entire 9 years I was in the legislature. We did have a split Senate. Actually, we did have the governor when I was in the Senate. So, but we did have a split Senate at one time. So I had to do both things. And I was able to pass legislation on victims' rights, domestic violence. El Mirage, the city of El Mirage used to be in our district, and I was able to pass some legislation to positively affect their city budget. I was able to get things into appropriation bills, and that was basically by working with both sides of the aisle and working together with people. So you have to get to know legislators, all of them, and you have to find the common ground with those individuals. And there is a lot of a common ground if you start talking to people. It's easy to find the differences. It takes more work to find the commonalities. And so it's a situation of building friendships, relationships with people to be able to move that type of legislation forward. The other thing is in committee. One of the ways that I was able to get our position as Democrats through it was by my questioning in committee. There's a case called Lopez Valenzuela versus Arpaio. It is a Ninth Circuit case, dealt with a law that was passed to make people who are undocumented non-bondable if they're arrested for a crime. My questioning of the proponents of that bill, that actual questioning showed up in the Ninth Circuit opinion as a reason for overturning and finding that bill unconstitutional. So that's another way to do that, is working through the committee system and being able to ask the right questions and elicit the answers that when these come up for some sort of review, judicial review, which many things do, that we still prevail once it goes to the courts.
Thank you. Mr. Larios.
Thank you. So I think it's super important to build those sort of relationships at the legislature with folks across the aisle. You know, I've seen an example of when Representative Chavez was able to have a bill just recently that did pass and was going to pass, regardless of any Democrats, any negotiations. And so what he was able to do was have the bill amended so that the piece that was going to allow for folks that are, selling, vendors selling corn, for example, in West Phoenix and Glendale area, that would be considered a crime. That was amended because Representative Chavez had a good relationship, with the other side. So how do we work with folks without compromising our values as a Democratic Party? There are ways. What the Republican Party, and there's something we need to be honest about it, the Democratic Party at the current time, we're losing the communications war. We're not doing enough to appeal to the working class. When I speak to Republicans at the doors, we have so much in common, and that's because I stick to the issues that affect their families right there. They want to make sure, just like everyone in this room, that they have food on the table, a roof over their head. So when we start talking about working class issues, you know what their concerns are? Their concerns are that corporations have too much influence in politics. Their concerns are that government's working against them. And to a point, it's hard to disagree. That's why I'm the only clean elections candidate on this panel. I'm not taking any corporate money. I'm running completely clean. I'm spending more time than anyone else here talking to voters. And so it's important that we really build that sort of enthusiasm and increase voter turnout. We have more independents in Arizona than we do Republicans or Democrats. Why is that? And that's because they're just tired of the bickering. They're tired of the two-party system. If we reach out to working class folks, if we reach out to folks that really care about their community, they're going to vote not off of the color of our party logo. They're going to vote off of what are we fighting for. And if we're fighting for their families, we flip the House and Senate without having to beg folks to move over. They'll see our actions do that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mesa, you have 30 seconds to add additional thoughts.
Sure. I think the number one priority, though, is to help bills get through or stop bills is our constituents. If you go to them and ask for help, they will go to war for you, like Jan Nichols has. She set up an infrastructure within District 30 to get the voices out, get the message out, to penetrate all these different subcultures out there. That's what works. That's how you do it. Secondly is history. If you read the history of the world, And there was a religious freedom bill that was very punitive and discriminatory to a subculture in our community. That bill originated by the Nazi Party in 1936. So if you understand your history, and you can bring that history forward and say, the Republicans replicated exactly what happened in the Nazi Party in 1936 and marginalized people.
Thank
know
you.
your history, you can do great. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question. What is your position, Ms. Taran, we'll start with you, on legalizing marijuana beyond medical use that was passed in the last election cycle?
Well, first and foremost, when I get to talk to voters in Legislative District 30, we see many people that cannot register to vote because they have a felony, that cannot engage in our civic process. Why? Because at one moment or another, they might have made one bad judgment call, and that then goes onto their record, and they become felons. One felony, first time you get a felony, second time you get a felony if you're smoking marijuana, and third time you get prison time. It's time that we, number one, regulate it, and number two, tax it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Brotherton.
Well, I think it was 55% of our district actually voted in favor of the legalization proposition that was on the last ballot. And I certainly, as a judge, had to deal with this issue. And actually, far too much time was spent. I had several bench trials for possession of marijuana cases. And you would have cases, basically an ASU student caught with a couple joints in their pocket, and we're having a prosecutor and an attorney and everyone dealing with this issue when it was totally unnecessary. And because of that, when I would sentence individuals, I would reduce the fines as much as possible. The minimum fine you can do, actually, you can give as a judge under mandatory sentencing, which is a problem, our mandatory sentencing scheme, is $750. And so I would do that minimum fine for these folks. The irony is that many times the police who caught these people, and even some of the attorneys who were prosecuting the cases, were themselves ASU students at one time who would have been prosecuted for this. So I think it is going to occur because the younger people that, regardless of generations, are supportive of this. Our real issues, our biggest issues in our state that I think we need to deal with, and we might be able to deal with by taxing marijuana, is the opioid crisis, things like, again, alcohol use. Those things cause many more problems than any of the personal possession of marijuana does. And I have to agree that, again, the issue of felonies, we are disenfranchising a lot of people, and I think one of the things we need to do on that is change the law so that once someone's done with their sentence, they're automatically reinstated and able to get their civil rights back, rather than having to go through a cumbersome process, which I saw as a judge that I think disenfranchises too many people.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Larios, your position.
I believe that marijuana should be legalized in Arizona. I think it's just a matter of time before it becomes a national standard. And the reason for that is, back to mention, know your history. We've done this, folks, with alcohol. And what was the result of that? We had Al Capone, and now we have El Chapo, and so many more to name. So not only is it going to reduce crime by legalizing it, by adding a system in place where we can benefit from the tax income, we're talking about now we have all this sort of money. I think we just found the way how we can fund our schools. I think we just found how we can increase our Medicare and Medicaid, to the folks here in Arizona. So we have to think also of what that means to our budget, what it means to our reducing the crime. This thing it's going to cross over to Arizona whether we have it under control or not. It's time that we take control. It's time that we can increase our income here in Arizona. And another thing is, I don't think folks need to finish their terms when they're serving if that's the reason why they're in jail. I think they need to be, let out as soon as possible. I think that they need to be given the resources so that they can be welcomed back into the community. These aren't, as a lot of folks like to see them, as criminals or felons. These are brothers, these are sisters, these are sons, these are parents. These are workers, these are homeowners, you know, these are coffee buyers, these folks eat at our diners. You know, we need to welcome them with open arms, and we need to really invest in the community. So I think it's not a hurdle that we're dealing with, the use or the conversation of legalizing marijuana. I think it's a huge opportunity that we need to take on and just really see other models all over the world, including here in the United States, on how that's not only reducing the burden of jailing folks and trying to regulate it in a counteractive way, but how we can really make it one of the reasons why Arizona becomes a leader in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Meza.
Yes, the number one drug in the world is alcohol. Okay, so that is the number one drug in the world, to know that. Secondly, marijuana has been demonized throughout history, and it actually has medicinal purposes that it's being utilized currently in the medical marijuana. Doctors and physicians are using that as for treatment, so it's moving in the right direction. The most important thing, if we pass medical marijuana, is how is it regulated? It needs to be regulated properly. So if it's going to be passed by the people, it needs to be written in such a way that is regulated like alcohol.
Thank you. Ms. Teran, your 30 seconds.
Yes, and I just want to reiterate the fact that when people are in prison for marijuana use, we end up with many people who are second-class citizens. And we need to make sure that we don't have a second-class citizens in our communities. You need to engage, be able to get jobs, be able to rent homes, be able to be a regular person in our society once somebody has paid their debt. And at this point, the way that we have that our current system, at this point, our current system criminalizes too many people for the use of marijuana.
Thank you. Next question. And this most likely will be our last question for this phase. I want to remind the audience to please use your note cards. If you need more note cards, please raise your hand. We're getting ready to go into the part of the debate where you can direct questions to specific candidates. So you would just put their name on the top and include the question for them. So thank you. So Mr. Brotherton, your next question is around jobs and employment. Besides tax incentives, what else can the state do to attract more jobs and new industries?
Well, I think that what we can do is, again, and it takes us back to public education. Craig Barrett, who was the former CEO of Intel, stated, this was just a couple of years ago, that if Intel could have foreseen what was going to happen with our public education system in Arizona, they probably wouldn't have located here. And there's a lot of businesses who are stating that they are having a real hard time hiring people straight out of school who are job ready, and they're actually having to provide education for them. And so it gets back to the fundamentals, and the fundamentals with regard to job creation are making sure that you have a workforce that is educated, that can do the jobs that this 21st century calls for, and are also that we have a community that's safe, that we have some of the amenities that many corporations might look at, and that includes parks, the arts, other things of that nature. So what we really need to do is get back to the fundamentals of making sure that public education, K through 12, voc ed, the community colleges, universities are properly funded, and they have not been properly funded for quite some time. And so I think those are the real fundamentals with regard to job creation. So I'm hoping that we can do that. There's some things innovative things that our districts have done. There's a coding school that's just opened up in Phoenix Union, which my understanding is that already kids are getting into that coding school, and they know that they've got jobs available when they get out. So it's partly the school districts and all making sure they're on top of the latest job trends, but it's making sure that we're investing in our future and investing in our children and not leaving them with a mortgage-sized debt when they get out of school.
Thank you. Mr. Larios.
Here in Legislative District 30, we see a lot of lack of strong paying jobs. You know, we're really a district that hosts a lot of manufacturing jobs. And I know that on a national level, you know, we keep making it easier to send jobs overseas. You know, we start thinking about NAFTA and the possibility of renegotiations. How, you know, do we have someone at the table there that's representing us, that's talking about how that affects our jobs here at home? You know, what about strong wages? Sure, let's increase wages to $15 an hour. But how do we make sure that big corporations, you know, come here to put these high quality jobs here? Now, the tax breaks are already there. We're basically begging them to come and set up a plant here. Why didn't Amazon's hub, you know, set up here in Arizona? It's not the tax breaks, you know, contrary to what Doug Ducey keeps saying. So we can do that all day. We can start handing them checks, which I'm sure is not far-fetched from what's already happening. What we need to do is invest in education so that there is no brain drain here. The sharpest folks that attend our universities here stay here because the jobs are here. That we have jobs, in innovative jobs, that we're investing in clean energy. I mean, imagine if that sector takes off here, right? Imagine if we take advantage of all of this sun that we all complain about and will continue to complain about until November. What could we do? You know, what sort of mountains can we move? And of course, not literally. You know, how do we take advantage of that and make sure that those jobs are here and being innovated in clean energy? As well as, how are we investing in our small communities? You know, a few years ago, Phoenix really spearheaded an effort to help small businesses, you know, set up their marketing, set up the quality of their work. And what we saw was a really big boom in the downtown Phoenix area. We saw businesses like Hula's Modern Tiki, you know. We saw businesses like the Windsor that really took advantage of old buildings that were already decaying, that were more than likely going to be just torn down. And we gave them the tools. We subsidized their growth. And we really saw that pay off. That area is back in business. That area is booming. Real estate is booming because of it. And we can do that in the West Valley. We need to do that in the West Valley.
Thank you.
I think it's threefold. Number one, right now what's happening in California, they're leaving in droves, the manufacturing groups. We as Arizonans should be able to capture that. But the reason why we can't capture that, government doesn't want to invest in the infrastructure to capture that. That's when we're letting that slip by us very quickly, and they're going to Texas. That's the number one thing I would do. Healthcare disruptors. There are technologies that are looking to set up shop in the healthcare industry. I think we have a good healthcare system already to begin with in Arizona. I think we invest in the healthcare disruptors, and one of them is, for example, VisionGate. It's the early detection of lung cancer. It can take your sputum, run it down a fiber optic tube, and create a three-dimensional view of the cell. No one in the world has created that. It's currently here in Arizona. It can do blood, it can do urine, it can do sputum, it can do tissue. That alone started in Seattle. We regrouped them and we brought them back here through the ACA. If we can incorporate and attracting more groups like that here to Arizona, you would see people from around the world start moving here locally. The other thing, veterans. There's some veterans with some great skills throughout who have served our country, and there's a group called the Armory that's starting new startups with veterans from West Point, from the Naval Academy, who have attended Harvard. And you have to think of it, of the 9 billionaires that live in Arizona, seven of them are veterans. So veterans are known how to think out of the box and think strategically and think very, to be able to work off of a dime. So with that said, and also Mexico, I think they're our biggest trading partner. If we can expand that and embrace them and not fear it, I think we can do really well in that arena. Thanks.
Thank you.
Natalie, can I ask you to repeat the question, please?
Yes. Besides tax incentives, what else can the state do to attract more jobs and new industries?
Well, I do want to make a point that we need better jobs for Legislative District 30, and we need to make sure that the median income in our district goes up. Right now, $29,000 is the median income in our district. And one, we need to make sure that small businesses have the resources necessary, invest in them. We need to make sure that they have access to loans. We need to ensure also that the kids or the students that are coming out of LD 30 have access to higher education. So only 11% of the people in LD 30 that have a degree or a certificate. So we need to start advancing, one, the preparedness and also the access of college, either free, very affordable or almost free. So we are definitely, we're definitely at a point here in the state of Arizona where, yes, we do need to take a look at how at the taxes. I know that you mentioned not mentioning the taxes, but at the same time, we need to make sure that our education system is fully funded. So once corporations are incentivized to come here because there are few taxes, we're cheating or failing our students, especially students from Legislative District 30, on having a good education and then having better jobs.
Thank you. And your 30 seconds, Mr. Brotherton.
Well, Debbie McCune Davis approached me, our longtime legislator, about running again for the legislature. And the thing that really pushed me over the edge to decide, yes, it needs to be done, is our next door neighbor, their daughter was a school teacher in Phoenix Elementary. And she lived at home in order to save money to buy her own house. She's now a school teacher in Las Vegas. She was given a $20,000 pay raise and a half the class size. And we're losing school teachers, good school teachers, and we need them to build an economy, and that's something we need to do. We need to stick with the basics, school, infrastructure. That's very important stuff.
Thank you. At this point in time, we will transition to the second part of the debate, where each candidate will receive a separate question with 1 minute to respond. Remember, audience, you may still submit questions via note cards and direct them to specific candidates. The first question is for Ms. Taran. What are your views on the taxation of digital goods?
The taxation on digital goods. So we, right now, my understanding, I need to do a little bit more research on that, but we, right now, we need to do more research on how Netflix, how Facebook, they're not paying taxes at this point. I need to do more research on getting more information on that issue.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Meza, your question is, how would you propose reducing opioid abuse in our state?
Probably a twofold approach. Number one, I would be experimental. There's this drug by Axial Healthcare that, if given, it blocks the chemistry for the addictiveness that takes place in the brain once you're hooked onto opioids. That's one, and they're moving from Tennessee to Arizona. I would do a pilot program experimenting with that and use measurements. I would do clinical trials, use measurements and outcomes to make sure that it passes the test. Secondly, we've already passed legislation that limits the amount of what doctors can give to patients. The issue with that, though, is it went too extreme, and the problem is it will be changed over the years to meet the needs of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Larios, your question. So yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld that Ohio's purging of voters was constitutional. How would you work to counteract this practice that seems to affect poor and minority?
So we need to work with the county recorder's office consistently to make sure that we simplify how voters are, using their power at the polls. I just don't understand why somehow the military is able to draft you, although there are some things in place to make sure that that doesn't quite happen. Why aren't folks automatically registered to vote? I mean, you're 18, we have your info, let's make it happen. If you want to opt out, you can opt out. We need to make that an Arizona standard, and we need to have that all over the entire country. And then kind of to touch on one of the questions I heard earlier, I think as we continue to transition from a digital world and we're losing a lot of in-person jobs, retail and all across the board, we need to see how to compensate that into the tax system so that while we're moving towards a digital age, that we're not losing our income tax as a state and as a country.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton, your question, how do you propose to increase the public school funding in this district?
Well, one way is the Invest in Education Act. That I think needs to be supported. I actually had a conversation here with David Lujan, who's one of the key people behind that. We're talking about for people making $200,000 to $500,000, an increase of maybe a few $100s on their state taxes for an entire year. Frankly, I think if you're making between $200,000 and $500,000, you can afford that. Maybe not go out to dinner as much and put a little bit more in, because I think it's something that will give a significant amount of money to public education. The other thing is we have almost wiped out corporate taxes in this state. There's been a tax-cutting mentality ever since Fife-Symington, what they used to call starve the beast, taking away money from government to make it smaller. And that was something we were constantly fighting against and had our best efforts at stopping it when we got all-day K and things of that nature when Janet Napolitano was governor. So that's another area. We can bring back that corporate income tax that we're losing that other states have and put that in place and put it towards public education.
Thank you. Ms. Duran, there's an audience member concerned with the funding in GESD 40, and they would like to know, how do you propose to assist in stopping vouchers, increase funding in public schools?
Well, we need to fight against vouchers. We need to fully fund our public education system. We've seen over and over how the tax cuts or the rules that benefit the corporations since 1990, we've had $1.5 billion cut from our education system. So we need to fight against vouchers and make sure that those resources actually go into our public schools.
Thank you. Mr. Meza, what would you do to promote accountability and transparency in charters?
I would put them under what the public school systems have to go through, the infrastructure and the policies and the accountability that they have to. I would replicate it. I would not allow charter schools not to have the accountability that public schools have. That's the number one priority I would do. Is if we take over the House and the Senate, I would move to have charter schools have that accountability.
Mr. Larios, your next question. What changes would you recommend to ensure safety in schools and other public places?
So what we have very often is a community that's broken. We have students that are dealing with a lot of issues, and not to mention access to high-powered weapons. I think there's a lot of things we can do as a community. I think one of the quickest things to do is we need to make it tougher to buy a weapon than it is to get a driver's license. That just needs to happen. That's way overdue. The other thing is we need to invest in our schools, and that includes more than just textbooks and whatnot. Yes, that all needs to come, but we need to offer counseling programs to our students. We need to offer after-school programs for our communities. That's been proven to reduce crime all across the board. That includes not just inside of our schools, but around it. Resource centers have been proven to reduce crime, not just in that block, but all around it. So we need to reinvest in that. I don't think it's a coincidence that as we've slashed that funding for those sort of programs for decades, we're seeing the results of that now.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton, your next question. Do you support the Clean Energy Ballot Initiative, and if so or not, why?
Well, I've actually read the initiative. It's extremely technical and doesn't really give you an idea of other than the definitions of what's in it and the percentages that it has to be. You're hearing both sides. One side saying it's not gonna have an appreciable difference on power bills. The other saying that it is going to raise people's power bills. At this point, I've been able to read the initiative. I've heard both sides, but I'm not sure if they're really unbiased outlets who have said these things. So if it gets on the ballot, it's going to be a decision for me and everybody else in November, and I'm hoping that that's going to be fleshed out a little bit more. I support clean energy, but I also support the people of LD 30, and when you walk door to door, there's still a lot of people in LD 30 who are, like me when I grew up, running a swamp cooler on their house, and a lot of times that's because of the limited incomes that people have, and so I certainly wouldn't want to do anything that jeopardizes that, but I think we need more information on that, and we're going to get that, I think, before November.
Thank you. Ms. Taran, your next question. What is your position on single-payer health care?
I support single-payer health care 100%, and we need, our families are going bankrupt. We have corporations, the industries from the pharmaceutical industries to the insurance industries that are dominating healthcare, and we need to have universal healthcare for all, especially in our district. We need and we need to have universal healthcare for everybody, regardless of status.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Meza, how can you help educators get a living wage to meet the average national wage?
Personally, here's what I would do. I would pay our teachers the highest in the country, bottom line. Because what's happened in the past 30 years is they've been beaten up. They are leaving Arizona in a mass exodus. So I would recreate the paradigm and say, we're going to pay teachers the highest in the country. That's what I would do. It's a big shift, but it's worth it for our children, their parents, and everyone in Arizona, because if we don't have that foundation, we will lose a lot. We will lose our intellectual property of our students, the brain power.
Thank you. Mr. Larios, with the legislative considered a part-time job, what other jobs or experience do you have, or do you plan on being a full-time legislator?
Well, that's the question that legislators always have to kind of juggle with. So, you know, I have a very diverse background in what I've done and what I've worked in. I think that brings value to this role because I've changed tires here in LD 30. You know, I've worked in education here in LD 30 and attended schools. Right now, I have I've made adjustments so that I'm set on that salary until the summertime. To focus on the legislature. I think there's a lot of opportunities to really find other forms. Until it's a part-time position, I'm committed for it to be a full-time for me as of right now.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton, do you support increasing education and vocational training in Arizona prisons to reduce recidivism? And if not, or so, why?
No, I do. Right now, we are releasing people into a situation in which, because of felonies, oftentimes that they have, and that's what you have to go to prison, it's very difficult to find a job. But there are many industries that are looking for people and are open to hiring convicted felons if they have the skill set that can help them in their jobs, in the jobs that they have. So we need to go back, actually, I think, to a mentality. My father was a probation parole officer. When he worked, the idea was about rehabilitation, more so than just warehousing and punishing. Our mandatory sentencing system, which I fought against when I was in the legislature before, and I chafed against as a judge, is warehousing people. And what we need to do is we need to stop doing that. We need to use evidence-based models to do sentencing, and we need to do something that puts these people in a position that they can integrate back into society, integrate back into families, help families, and support their children or other people when they get out, and not be a burden on those families.
Thank you. So, Ms. Taran, what is your position towards increasing individual state rights and granting less power to the federal government?
So we need our federal government, and we need the resources of the federal government, and we need the resources of the state of Arizona in order for Arizona to continue to move forward. We cannot be a sovereign state, and it comes from healthcare to infrastructure to make at least for those two things, we cannot have a storm in Arizona, so we need our federal government.
Okay. Mr. Meza, if everybody's coming to Arizona for jobs, what about water? What does legislation need to do around water and water rights?
Immediately, it needs to be expedited to start conserving water from households, lawns, to the golf courses, through the major corporations leading the movement. We are short of water at the current moment. And when it rains here, everyone says, oh, it's raining again, so we've had a good year, we forget about it. If we're not thinking about water for long term, we're going to be held hostage by other states to start claiming some of their water, and it's going to be a very messy time.
Okay. Mr. Larios, how do you plan on bringing back a hospital to Maryville?
I think we need to work on incentivizing. We need to work on incentivizing, a hospital to invest in Maryville. I think too often we use models on what's going to be profitable, what's going to bring in a certain amount of money to meet quotas, and we need to think more about it as people. There shouldn't be a financial incentive to open a hospital. There shouldn't be, just like the Postal Service. Postal Service is not set up to turn a profit. It's there to set a value to the community, a service. And so if it was up to FedEx and UPS, they're not going to move and set up a center where it's not profitable. And if our hospitals and our healthcare system continues to work as it has been, then that's the result. So when we look at healthcare and we see it as a human right, then there will be a hospital somewhere like Maryville. There will be hospitals in small towns. When folks have an emergency, they won't need a helicopter lift and then have to pay for it out of pocket because of it. So I think that all ties back to the problem of healthcare being prioritized by profit and money.
Thank you. Mr. Brotherton, what is your position on sanctuary cities?
Well, I think that I believe that basically these cities should be able to make these decisions for themselves if they want to set up programs where they limit their cooperation with the federal government on issues of immigration. I think that should be something that's left up to the cities and who are dealing with the populace within their city boundaries. And oftentimes, I know when I was in the legislature, the Republicans would talk about local control. But for the Republicans, their idea of local control is if they agree with the cities, then they let them do whatever it is that they can do. If they don't agree, then they preempt them, like they've done on sanctuary cities or plastic bags or all sorts of things. And so I really think that it's something that cities should be left to make those decisions about. Same as with dark money, like with Tempe. They should have been left to disclose dark money in their elections that they wanted. It shouldn't have been preempted. So there's a number of things I think the city should be left to do, and that's one of them.
Thank you. Ms. Duran, what is your position on states proactively writing laws for new industries like autonomous vehicles?
Wow, we've already seen the incidents of the autonomous vehicles that, we've had people killed with by the autonomous vehicles, and we're heading in a direction where there's so much autonomy from our grocery stores being automized to our vehicles. I think we need to make sure that we have a really good system of monitoring, and we cannot just start putting these vehicles on the road without having the necessary safety procedures.
Thank you. Mr. Meza, how can states fight back against corporations playing one state against another for income tax breaks and sales tax breaks?
Great question. I think it's competition, and I think it's going to always exist. But what you can do to prevent it would be to write laws for the state, write policy for the state to not allow different corporations to set the standards, to set the pace. We can create our own journey, we can create our own mission for the state. And if we write policies to prevent that, That would be the best way to inoculate the system from preventing it from happening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Larios, how do you propose to increase the daily allotment per student of $20 per day? And what do you think the outcome would be if it was funded at a higher level?
I think the outcome would be pretty obvious. We'd have more opportunity to really expand on how we're using those funds. The result would be we have access. Students have access to what they need. That's currently continuously being cut and cut and cut. So I think the outcome would be, just as we'd want.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brotherton, your next question. In light of recent events in the legislature, how would you help reform the current environment to address sexual misconduct allegations?
Well, I can tell you one thing that needs to be done down there is because I was ranking member on the Ethics Committee in both the House and the Senate, and they're partisan committees. All the other committees are partisan, and what I mean by that is whoever has the most seats in a committee, in a body, has the most seats on the committees. The committees should be evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats, and they shouldn't be partisan. Ethics shouldn't be a partisan issue. And I tried to do that and change that the last time I was there. I was unsuccessful in doing that. But that's one of the big things that we need to do is have co-chairs of those ethics committees so that ethics is taken out of the realm of the partisan battle, and the issues that are alluded to in that question are not partisan issues. They're common sense, common decency issues. And I think if we take it out of the realm of a partisanship situation with those ethics committees, then that's going to go a long ways to making sure there's discipline of people and accountability for members who break the rules.
Thank you. This will be our last round of these questions, and then we will conclude and go into our closing statements. So, Ms. Taran, regardless of what the current administration does with NAFTA, how can we ensure that we help keep Arizona trade with Mexico at the current high level?
Well, currently, the Arizona-Mexico Commission has been doing an excellent job of building the relationship with our neighboring state, Sonora, and with Mexico. We need to continue to build those relationships. Mexico is our biggest partner, and it has to go both ways. We even need to figure out how there's better infrastructure from both sides, from both countries, in order for goods to come and to go. But I would like to make a point, even though that there is a good relationship with the Arizona-Mexico Commission, we also need to talk. We need to talk about how this type of a relationship can move solutions for people who are also here in this country that are that are not from the United States but are from Mexico, and we need to start moving some kind of solutions for those people here.
Thank you. Mr. Meza, what systems can we put in place to support the refugee students and families?
Number one, I would put in place is the nonprofits that are currently dealing with the refugees and supply them from the government, from foundations, from local governments, give them the monies to set up the proper infrastructure for the refugees. Currently, I am working with a Syrian refugee, with a gentleman with Mike, and what we've realized is Amsterdam has the perfect infrastructure to help the refugees coming in from Syria to Amsterdam. I think that model of providing them housing works extremely well. If we could do that in Arizona, providing them a certain form of benefit so that they can survive on a daily basis. That's the second thing. And providing them a whole system of services of where they can get access to. But being culturally competent to them is providing them in their native language a system that they can be addressed in so that they understand. We can replicate what they've done in Amsterdam. They have an excellent model. We can replicate it here.
Thank you. Mr. Larios, your next question. How can you help overloaded refugee districts like Glendale and Alhambra?
Well, that's right here in LD30. And we have the most diverse district in the whole state. It's something we need to be absolutely proud of, embrace it. I mean, that's a big plus. I don't know about you, but I feel like that sounds like a welcoming reason to have folks move in, right? So we need to embrace them. We need to really allow the resources for them if their kids want to go to school, go to college, and hopefully stay right here in this district. We have a lot of talented folks all over the world. And a lot of times, you know, in this case, they leave because they don't have a choice. How much talent is there? What have they gone through? What have they experienced? And how can we leverage that to make Arizona, to bring more value to Arizona and to LD30? And these are small businesses. These are folks that will really add value to our local businesses, to our schools, our infrastructure. It'll allow us to really have a worldview, a bigger worldview than we already have. And so I think, you know, having the resources to welcome them, to set them up for success, for them to be successful right here in LD30 is a win for everyone.
Thank you. And Mr. Brotherton, your final question. What is your opinion of an all mail-in ballot election, and do you support it being implemented statewide? And if so, why?
Okay, well, I have a brother, actually, the only one that lives out of state, up in Oregon, and they have all mail-in ballots there. It works great. I mean, I support same-day voter registration. That's been something that people who've been involved in the Democratic Party have wanted for a long time. You can go to Target, stand in line, and get a credit card right there without even holding the line up. But for some reason, with all the technological advances, the Republicans still won't do same-day voter registration. And so I think that all mail-in ballots, whatever we can do to make it easier for people to vote, for them to register to vote, is what we need to do. It's done in other countries, and when I sat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, we talked about this issue. There's not voter fraud. I mean, the voter fraud that they talked about was somebody in Sun City who was voting in Arizona and Sun City and also voting in Minnesota. It wasn't a bunch of other people getting together and doing things. So it's just a ruse, and I think what we need to do is make it easier to vote, not harder to vote, and that recent case that you mentioned in Ohio is one of the ways they're trying to make it harder to vote.
All right, thank you. We will now go to closing statements. Ms. Taran, we will start with you. You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, I first and foremost thank you for staying with us this evening. I humbly ask for your support in this race for the Arizona House of Representatives. For the last 12 years, I've demonstrated that I don't give up, that I am willing and listen to the needs of our community, and those are the same values that I share with Legislative District 30 residents. We have a community that's very resilient, that doesn't give up. And I want to ensure that everything that I've learned in the last 12 years of knocking on doors at 115-degree weather, all those stories, I take them into the state legislature and fight back every single day, any time there are any attacks for it, towards our community, but also to move forward legislation that's going to be more proactive. Buenas tardes, les pido su apoyo para la legislatura del estado de Arizona. He estado trabajando por los últimos 12 años en asegurar que nuestra comunidad sea parte del proceso de decisión. Humildemente les pido su apoyo, su voto para llegar a esa legislatura sin darnos por vencidos.
Thank you. Mr. Meza, your closing comments.
Sure. District 30 has 64 languages spoken in it. It is the epicenter of every movement that has started, the immigration movement. We have more children pulled out of homes and put into foster care. We have the highest kidney disease in the state, outnumbering the Native community population. So you're going to have to get someone who can hit the ground running quickly at the legislative body, but who also understands the corporate and the nonprofit arena and crossbreed them together. Example, we have the biggest behavioral health center in the state, Jewish Family Children's Services. I helped them raise the $3.2 million for that, and they serve over 90,000 people per year. That's our district. For the Kidney Foundation, I raised them $500,000. That money was targeted to our district. So yes, I can do policy, I can work with corporations, I can work with the nonprofit arena. In district, zip code 85017, we have the highest sexual trafficking in the country. So I'm working with groups right now to prevent that. So what you get with me is a crossbreed of a lot of different types of talents that I can bring forth to help the community.
Thank you. Mr. Larios.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone that's here, and I want to really thank the Citizens Clean Elections Commission for putting this together in 2016. Only one candidate showed up to that, and this is exactly what I envisioned for my district where I grew up, the district that I love, is increasing interest in our local politics, is really making sure that everyone is out here. Here we have all candidates running for the House, so thank you to all of you for being here. And I want to make sure that someone that's gone through those cycles, that has, such as myself, we used food stamps when I was a young kid. We used access, so that we can see the doctor. I was at Golden Gate Community Center to make sure, while both of my parents had to work to make sure that we can make ends meet. To me, it's important that someone that's gone through that and can now be here next to these very polished individuals running to represent his community, that's exciting to me. And we build sort of interest in the community when we connect to voters. That's what we've done here. We knocked on a ton of doors, and that's been the energy from the beginning, and it's not a talking point. It goes to show we came in with 300 more signatures than we thought we would, than everyone else. And that goes to show the work is very grassroots. That's how we empower our community. That's how we make sure that LD30 is strong at the Capitol, statewide. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Brotherton.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I appreciate the fact that we've had this opportunity. And a while back when Debbie McCune Davis, our longtime legislator, heard that I was going to be retiring, leaving the court, and approached me about running, she did that because she knew that I had lived here a very long time. In fact, the first time I voted in 1980, I voted for her, Leila Alston, both of them in the district. And she knew that I loved this district and I have a heart to serve it. And so that's a huge issue for me, is making sure that I do serve this district. We all have different backgrounds. I can remember being on food stamps myself. My parents divorced. When people go through those things, sometimes they get very low, and I can remember that myself and going through that. And on a free lunch program, when they used to give you a different colored punch card to note that you were the guy getting the free lunch. So I can remember those things as a child growing up here. And so I just want to say that I'm going to be able to, as Senator Mazur said, hit the ground running on the first day. It won't be learning the job. It'll be going back and going full steam ahead, because time is of the essence for our children. They only have a childhood once, and they grow up quickly. So I hope I get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. To our candidates, we want to thank you so much for participating in our forum. And to our audience members, we thank all of you who took the time to come out and to inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov/voter dashboard for a customized experience to find information on the primary election, the candidates, the issues, and to view this debate on demand. Please fill out the evaluation form and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is very important to the Commission and will help us improve future debates. Thank you all for coming tonight, and you are welcome to stay and speak directly with the candidates. Good night.